So let's start with sonic branding. And Yeoh, please explain to us. I know it's more than music, because that was quite him. It's more than music. So explain to us in everyday language what it really means.
So a sonic DNA or sonic branding basically relates to a sonic reflection of the brand. So what happens when we talk about sonic identities, actually we try to convert how the brand has been perceived visually into something which is sonically receivable. So this means that obviously it's a reflection of everything we are familiar with. Normally when we think about brands, we think about the logo, we might think about some design elements, we might think about the color scheme even. And basically what happens when we talk about this sonic reflection is that we turn this into something which is sonically relevant to the audience, and which gives basically the brands enough flexibility in order to find different languages across all the different digital channels nowadays they have to serve. And this is basically the idea, that people can relate to a brand, that people consider this brand as relevant to them, and have as well kind of cultural relevance in terms of which region we are talking about.
So let's go to talk. Why do I call you Talk? Your name is Taj, right?
Page Talk.
All right. TikTok has also become a huge discovery platform for new music and artists, right? So just as it's becoming one for travel inspiration. So tell us the most exciting trend that you're seeing in TikTok today.
People really come to TikTok for community, for culture, for discovery, right? And one of the things that they go through when they're watching TikTok or being entertained on TikTok are these micro trends or micro moments that really make an impact. And that's something very unique about TikTok. Music is a very crucial part of that experience. So TikTok by nature is a full screen sound on platform. It's completely skippable. So music plays an extremely important part in keeping the user engaged and sort of connecting with the user. And really on the travel side, we've seen this trend really make an impact. Over the last year, travel content on TikTok has grown about 2x, and we attribute a large part of this increase is, of course, travel in general opening up. But basically, people have a lot of appetite to consume travel content on TikTok. So overall, I do see that music plays a super important part. And one of my favorite TikToks is actually a guy skating, chugging cranberry juice while listening to Fleetwood Mac. Okay. And he ended up selling all of the cranberry juice in that market, So
yeah, we remember that story. I mean, Don, what does, as a consumer yourself, as a traveler, what does music do to you? What does the concept of sonic branding do to you in brand building?
I think as a traveler, from a customer perspective, it does, it makes you recall certain things that you've experienced in the city, right? The sights, the sounds. I mean, those words are very easy to say, but then you do remember the smells, you do remember the sights, you do remember the sounds, definitely. So, we think about, let's say, when you board an airline, you know a certain airline's jingle, you know when you're on Singapore Airlines, for example. So you know when you're hearing the airport announcements, So those things are also like, it actually affects your entire travel journey. So it's extremely important for me.
All right, so we will take questions. Remember my number, 96924989, if you want to ask questions of this panel. So Don, I'm going to stay with you because your role is really a balance between customer acquisition, because you need people to buy the passes, right? And then, but also brand building. So would you say right now is more about performance marketing, less about brand building? And, what's the most profitable channel right now for you?
Yeah, I think at Go City, we're the largest sightseeing pass company in the world. Our mobile QR code pass lets you enter all the best attractions, tours, and activities in the city. So for us, we actually place a very high importance on performance marketing. It is one of our most important pillars. And the way we look at it is we call the e-commerce revenue role a trader role. We call it trading because where we are headquartered in the UK, that's what trading is called. And when we look at how we measure like sales, we act exactly like a day trader. So you invest when it's coming up, you divest when it's coming low. We are very nimble, we are very adaptable, and we look at revenue in a very intricate way because we look at a lot of data and signals as well. But actually, having said that, I feel that marketing and marketers are coming to a full circle right now because we have experimented a little bit in print, and it has given us very interesting results. So I feel like from offline to online, like it feels like offline is now, with the human
Sexy
touch,
again.
it's a bit more tangible, it's a bit more human element into it. I think we're kind of going back a little bit. So it's
Right. And print, interesting. What's the demographic for print? Is it still the younger people who are shifting back to print, because not actually shifting, but shifting to print because maybe they never knew print?
I think we don't know the exact age target, but what we know is these are your 20s to 40s roughly travelers. So things like, people who are, reading certain travel magazines. So I would say, in terms of print, we work with the Map of Singapore, we work with National Geographic UK, stuff like that. So the readers of that, we don't know how old they are, but they are actually scanning our QR codes, they are visiting our websites, and it feels like how 10 years ago or 20 years ago we looked at digital as the new frontier. I'm now going back and saying maybe print is another frontier. And I know it's a little bit like, against AI, but it's not really against AI. I feel it's more human, it's more tangible, and it's something exciting for us as well.
Well, every trend calls for a counter trend, right? Are you seeing that trend at all in Europe? This move back towards print?
No, actually, it's. I wouldn't say though that there's a movement towards print backwards, but in general, people are more considering recent examples where they had different experiences, right? So people are a lot of engaging in terms of understanding what worked in the past and what might work in the future still. So specifically, when you look at this gender specific as well, from your target group, there's a huge variety. Basically, what people consider as an enjoyable experience, and obviously this has to be reflected as well in our work, where we do this. Support this with a sonic element, which enables then a stronger storytelling where people can stronger relate to. So this is a quite interesting observation right now, very much dependent on what kind of generation we are looking at when it comes to an experience.
Okay, but the most profitable channel for you is still search, right? I mean, and do you think that will change with AI?
I think it's, yes, it will change with AI, because then we need to be able to cater to AI, right? Cater our ads to AI, and once AI is able to deliver ads, then we need to be ready for that. Search is definitely still our most important channel, but only because we focus a lot on the bottom funnel marketing. So each brand has a different approach. We focus on profitability and revenue, and therefore it is, for us, will be search, because it's very intent based.
Right. So there's been talk at this conference, I think, I believe Chris Hamilton also mentioned it, that for the first time there is an opportunity to, the search was always dominated by the big guys, and that's all changing. So you talked about search by vibe, right? Have you seen direct correlation between people searching by vibe, live videos, to conversions, to commerce?
So just let me give you a little bit context. So the insights that we have is Gen Z is searching on TikTok as well. It's especially prevalent in point of interest like venues, like restaurant or destinations, super interesting for travel. So we do see that Gen Zs are we see strong insights that Gen Zs discovering new places, searching on TikTok, getting relevant relevations. And why by vibe is, just to give you a very simple example, on my last trip to Bangkok with my team, we were deciding what place to go to, and while I was on my search, which includes reading reviews, going through pictures, they had already booked a cab, decided where to go. And when I questioned their decision, they said, this place has no vibe. We can show you a TikTok. This is how this place looks like right now, right? Okay. So the way they are consuming data and consuming search is very, very different. We do see very strong insights that people are searching on TikTok, and we have as an option to advertisers who are using us, we do surface these ads as a part of the search results.
All right. So Yeoh, what do you think about all this? You come from sonic branding. You want people to really sit back, and reflect on the whole sonic brand. And there's this huge trend towards short-form content, right?
Yes.
So how do you see this? And customers have very short attention spans, like 15-second videos. And so how do you get them to listen to a brand in this very cluttered, noisy environment?
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion going on right now in terms of understanding what's in for the brands, considering all the different touch points they have, depending very much on their business model. So we just heard about the airline. We can recall our experience when we enter an airplane, but if you talk nowadays to the airline industry, actually they try to position themselves as a lifestyle product. So this which goes way beyond just the experience sitting in the airplane and get carried somewhere else. So in terms of really understanding opportunities for the brands, making them aware that when they approach this topic of sound more holistically, this can make a huge difference. We got bombarded with a lot of visuals, and we got bombarded as well with random sound, which are used by different brands, which is called stock music. This doesn't work anymore. So really, brands try to understand to become recognizable, to become unique, as well having enough flexibility in terms of positioning themselves across all the touch points. So this would mean that there might be a TV campaign for something where you still consider a sonic logo as an element where you can position your brand sonically. But when we talk about Instagram or TikTok, you need to engage in the first couple of seconds. So this means that you have to adapt your sonic identity in a format which can be recognizable, which creates this relation within a couple of seconds, and then you start your storytelling. So this is a lot of discussions are going on around this, trying really to understand how can I basically perceived with closed eyes. This is something we have frequently discussion with a lot of brands, and we are doing brand positioning from a sonic perspective globally for the biggest brands of the world. And we're doing a lot of surveys as well where we try to understand why are certain industries slower in terms of accepting this. Travel industry, for example, is not really represented in these surveys because they are not really considering sound as a strong element enhancing customer experience.
So we have a question. So you might not have an answer to this then, because this question comes, in your opinion, which destination, city or country, and you can also answer, has the strongest sonic brand?
Which destination has the strongest sonic? This is hard to say, to be honest. It's really hard to say. I'm sure, when I look at some material, depending on the channels, there's every region, every country, every city. I'm coming from Munich. We position ourselves sonically as well whenever it's possible. When I represent now, the city of Munich. Right now, the Oktoberfest. Obviously, there's a strong element where you can, play with sound, but. I'm not familiar with any example where I would say this is, very unique or very, advanced. It's more about how brands are using this in their advantage in a cultural relevant, context. This means, a sound which works very successfully here in Asia probably most likely wouldn't work in South America. So, however, the core might be the same, but the adaptation needs to be adjusted in order to become culturally relevant.
Right. Don, you had an answer.
I think when you look at traditional music and cultural elements, there is obviously cultural instruments that are synonymous to a certain country. But the first thing that came into my mind was K-pop for Korea. So I think that was like straight away which country it's from.
Right, and Don is going to do the K-pop dance movement for us. Taj, I think you actually picked out, which I thought was interesting when I asked you, for a brand that was actually playing with sound, and you said that brand, just using sound kind of resonated with you, and that was...
So I find it super engaging, their content. We don't work with them currently, but Aman Hotels does a great job. So when you look at their content, you actually notice the sound first, and I really connected with that. So imagine Aman has these unique, sometimes far out hotels in Indonesia and beautiful destinations around the world. And the first thing you notice about the content is maybe a bird chirping or just the experience of being a place, right? Okay. So that sort of leaves a lasting impression.
Okay, so there's also a lot of talk about the creators' economy in Asia, and I think it's also happening in Europe.
Yes.
We talked with Get Your Guide as well, and they've been working with a lot of content creators. Klook here. Don, how is Go City working with content creators?
Yeah, so we work with content creators by way of looking at it from, for example, let me just take China, for example. So we have very good results in mainland China because during the summer, we've already surpassed 2019 sales. And now leading up to Golden Week, we're already double of 2019 during Golden Week. So what we've done during the pandemic has really worked well with us. So we worked with Xiaohongshu, which is called Little Red Book. It is basically in mainland China. It's crudely the combination of Instagram, Pinterest, and a bit of Google search capabilities. So the content that you create is a gift that keeps on giving. It has SEO capabilities where years later when people search for, say, Singapore or search for, say, Istanbul, your articles will appear, right? So we did that during the whole of the pandemic. And we see, and we worked with a lot of like grassroots content creators and influencers in all of our cities. So we've seen the gift keep on giving, especially this year. And because we've also launched our WeChat mini program, and what that means is that our passes are now being able to be traded inside mainland China, being paid by WeChat Pay. A combination of that content plus commerce plus social has really, really helped us surpass pre-pandemic levels.
Do you pay those content creators?
We don't pay those content creators. We have a very strict policy. So actually, I created the policy. We basically just give them our city passes, and we said, look, tell the truth. Please, like, I'm not going to tell you what to say, but if you don't mind, show the pass so that people know what it is. That's it. That's all we say. We don't tell them what to say. We say, please give us your most honest reviews. What we do is we would feed it back to the tech team as well as the product team. So we always look at reviews as well as content creators as a way to get feedback for our product.
Right, so you're basically connecting them with conversions as well. I mean, it's what very, very much Sarah said on the panel where, you know, the best content was actually created by the people who are relatable, local, on the ground, right? So, Tej, any travel brand other than the three I've mentioned here, Klook and Get Your Guide, any other travel brand that's done good work with content creators?
A lot of travel brands, some in this room like Agoda, Klook, do a great job with content creators, and content creators are a really great way to get started on TikTok or other platforms because they know their community, right? They know what resonates, and it's a great way to for the brand not only to scale their affiliate marketing efforts. That means maybe get bookings on cost per acquisition basis, which is really scalable, but also just get started. It lowers the barriers to entry. So I do see, we work closely with the Klook team. We do see a lot of authentic user-generated content being coming out. We do see great work coming out of the Agoda team.
Right.
And really, the adoption is growing. As I told you earlier, the travel content is growing at the rate of 2x year on year, and we do see this growing future as well due to efforts from brands like GoCity, other brands as well.
Right. So you are the other end of the spectrum, right?
Yes.
Because your work is really produced by professionals, musicians, you know, it's not creators, you know, not the crowdsourced content, right? And yesterday we had a startup from Korea that was doing like a website, an app on the K-pop dance challenge, for example. So a lot of user-created content. Do you see opportunities for AMP to get into that, or are you going to stay, you know, within your professional community?
Yeah, absolutely. We are actually on it already. So we have one element which is, you know, the creation thing, what you're just referring to. You know, we work in collaborating with artists on a global level. But on the other side, you know, there's a huge you know, need for having tech platforms available to provide basically global brands to administrate their sonic identity. So this would mean that, for example, what we are trying to help companies is actually to produce their own content more effectively, more efficiently, where there's a huge cost saving, you know, available for them. And we do this, you know, with our AI platform, basically, where they have, you know, considering this great example of James Bond, you know, when we have this DNA, we basically enable through this platform that this DNA can infuse in any music they relate to. It can be even stock music. And this means that, you know, all the sound they are producing for their content along the storytelling basically is owned by the brands. So this is another, you know, huge, you know, relevant aspect where nowadays brands are, you know, trying to save money when it comes to licensing. Licensed music is extremely expensive for brands. In order to basically optimize here, you know, the Sonic DNA enables them to have a flexible way to create their own content along with the music, which is infused with their DNA, basically, which then relates to the brand again. And, you know, due to the tech platform, they can basically adjust the sound to the visuals or the other way around. So this is all possible nowadays, and they get out the content in minutes, which is a huge change compared to the previous approach, where you collaborate with your agencies and then a back and forth, and then somebody wanted to change the voice-over track, and then you had to do this whole thing again. So this is, you know, something we see.
It's a game changer, isn't it?
Absolutely.
This generative AI, and so I was going to bring that up, and given how good it is at creating images, like, you know,
and
idiots like me can do it, you know, I mean, videos, music, and all that. So what qualities should marketeers be dialing up now? Because, this part of even creativity and even the imagination, these machines are so good at that. So what qualities do you think marketeers should be dialing up at this moment? Let's start with you, Don.
I think we as marketers need to be able to be adaptable. So I think if you have the core principle or the core habit of being adaptable, then, change is inevitable, right? It's going to happen. So as long as we're able to adapt. And the second part is what I like about what you said earlier is like we need to learn how to prompt AI better and prompt ChatGPT better. So I think learning how to prompt and speaking the AI language, I think that's going to be a skill that's going to be really important.
Like being a really great AI whisperer. So specific skill, prompting, being able to whisper to the AI. Tej, what are the new skills you think marketers need to take on or maybe ramp up?
Yeah, I think from my side, I think one is a sense of urgency. Second is an urgent sense of urgency.
Okay.
And learnability. So new things or new principles keep coming in place. And the learnability needs to be there so that they can clean slates, they can build on what they've learned in the past. However, I do feel the principles do remain same in a way. So when you talk about marketing, the 4 Ps are pretty much the same: product, price, principle, place. The way you promote changes. So your promotion platform may be TikTok today, maybe any other platform. But really, once the principles are set, they need to be adaptable, as Don mentioned, and there should be a component of learnability.
But is there a specific skill they can pick up?
I would say learnability would be the skill, just the ability to learn and relearn again.
Okay. Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say, since we're talking the whole day about AI, I think, they need to embrace new technology. This is basically, always a topic when we engage with these big brands on one hand side. So considering AI as an opportunity to become more creative, actually, enable them to become even more creative. And, as I was mentioning before, this technology is for them available, basically. They can use that in favor of their own creativity. On the other side, I think, in this context, it makes a huge difference when you basically work on these data which we are collecting throughout the whole process in order to ask even more challenging questions, how they can become successful as a brand, how they can position their product more effectively in the markets. Asking these challenging questions is possible nowadays since you have much more data available which you basically can address.
All right. So, Don, you were saying to me, because I asked, what do you have to do as a marketeer? And you said that a marketeer today has to be, partly day trader, has to be an artist manager, has to be a journalist, has to be an artist. So many, many hats now that a marketeer has to wear.
Yeah,
all right.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's TikTok. We have to talk about TikTok opening in Indonesia and then running into some barriers over there. And then it's arrived in Singapore. Is it selling travel? Will it?
So TikTok Shop, yes, it is present in Singapore. Right now, what you can buy is maybe things related to travel, but there are more products like suitcases, your travel accessories. All these are accessible in TikTok Shop in Singapore. It's a great experience. I don't know how many of you people have tried it, but sure, do try it in Singapore. But on the travel side, we do actually lean into where the demand is, and maybe stay tuned. It will come up in the future.
Part of the future. It reminds me of what an investor said on this stage. It's like, the first thing you need to do is build a community base, build your customers, and then sell them stuff. That was what he said. So do you think marketeers have to be technologists today?
Definitely. I think as the role of marketers now are moving into more revenue, it's more revenue focused. Gone are the days of, the whole old school classic marketers. We definitely need to work more with not just the technology team, but also the finance team, for example. So just a quick example, like I mentioned earlier, we launched the WeChat mini program. That was basically a result of very close collaboration between the marketing team and the tech team and the product team, both in APAC as well as global. And we launched it in about just slightly over a month, and it's giving us really, really good results. So I won't stop talking about it, but that is a very good example of how marketers are turning to big technologies, speak the language, and then you be able to make changes really quickly and fail forward and improve better.
Okay. Brief answer from you?
Yeah, I would, partly I would agree what you're saying, but a lot of marketing activities are nowadays driven very, very tactical. But when we talk to, for example, one of the biggest reference cases for sonic branding is MasterCard. They are always thinking about how to use technology in favor of their business model. So this means when you talk with them, with the marketing team there, you have a lot of discussions going on in terms of tech, what's available, what's next. But on the other side, actually, considering as well this creative element what I was referring before. So it's a combination, a very tight combination between, how can I use all this data, how can I move forward from a technology point of view, and how can I make it more attractive for our business model.
Right. So it's like a lot of science, but you got to have the art, and then you got to have a lot of heart, right? You got no heart, but a lot of heart. So I'm going to wrap up with a brand test with you guys. So if you were a car, what brand would you be?
Well, actually, not because of the prestige. It's more because of the aesthetics. It's an Aston Martin. It's very elegant and craftsmanship.
Right.
Range Rover. I like to sit tall. Range Rover.
Range Rover.
Lexus.
Lexus. Okay. If you were a watch, what brand would you be?
Patek Philippe.
Travel, so Breitling.
A Swatch, maybe, colorful and fun. I like fun.
Okay. If you were a gin, what brand would you be?
Whitley Neal.
I'm a whiskey guy, but I like Monkey 47 slow gin. So,
I like Mare a lot because of the combination of herbs, so I like this a lot from a Mediterranean. Yeah.
If you were a dog, what breed would you be?
Border Collie.
Golden Retriever.
Weimaraner.
Okay, thank you. Please join me in thanking my panelists, Yeoh, Taj, and Dawn.
Thank you.
Thank you.